Powerful and provocative, prophetic and practical,
Have you ever found yourself?
Are you dating for that person?
informative and
I feel
inspirational.
every bit of that. Like, I'm not trying to waste my
How you gonna do better if you don't know what better looks like? I do. Come on, let's talk about it with me, the mind massager.
Sharing it for a minute. Almost messed up. All right, let's go ahead and get this thing started. Let me make sure I get this enough slack in this cord. Can you? I hope y'all can hear me. But yeah, getting ready to get this conversation started. It's Monday night once more, and we come to you on Monday nights with the intellectual stew. What's up, big bro, little bro? With the intellectual stew every Monday night, where we have open mic night, where we give you all a chance to come in and to share your personal convictions. You can even guide the conversation, and if you don't guide the conversation, I always have a backup plan. I try to have a backup plan, and if I don't have a backup plan, I can ramble for an hour. So now don't make me ramble. I really don't want to ramble, but if you make me, I just kind of have to do what I have to do. I do have some things kind of in mind that I would like to discuss, but I'm kind of wait until a few more people tap in. If you're coming in, do me a favor. Please, ma'am, please, sir, share this thread, share it so we can perhaps get some more people involved in this particular conversation. It's Monday night. Normally I let the music play for about 5 minutes, but I don't even want to do that tonight. I'll just say, let's go ahead and get this thing started. And that's where we are right now. So we're going to get this conversation started. So like I said, share this if you would. I got a couple things on my mind. Last week I shared, I think, 10 reasons the Black church is not as effective as it once was. That's what I shared last week, and got a little reaction to that. But there was one particular segment that I really kind of wanted to come back and pick up again. I kind of want to come back and pick that topic up again. Let me make sure I'm transmitting. Dennis, can you hear me? Let me make sure but I don't hear myself in my microphone. So I want to make sure I didn't unplug myself. Let me know if you can hear me. But Let me know if you can hear me, please, little brother. And if you can, then I'm going to continue this monologue tonight. As you come in tonight, though, do me a favor. Y'all share this. You can hear me? Okay, good. As you come in and share this thread. I got a confession, Dennis. The other night, I saw the lottery was like $500-600 million. I bought a ticket. I bought a ticket. I ain't gonna lie. I bought a ticket, and I kind of spent the money. But then I woke up and I wasn't rich, so I guess I didn't win. So that's okay. That's okay though. But listen, I see some more people coming in now. Thank you all. Once again, it's Monday night, open mic night. You all see the phone number there. Oh, I haven't put the link in the chat. Let me put the link in the chat, and then I'll start my little soliloquy. Give me one hot second to put the link in the chat, ladies and gentlemen, if you will. Let me put this in. As you come in, say hello. How y'all doing? Say, let me know you're there. And like I said, we can get this conversation started. I'm gonna need your help tonight, for real. I really don't want it to be a monologue. I really would prefer that it be a dialogue. So if you would join in with me tonight so we can have a good conversation tonight. Hold on, let me put this to join the conversation. So I'm putting this is the link that I put in the chat. And what this does, you can come on video. And I have no problem with that, as long as you behave. Now, if you come in clowning, then I probably won't let you hang around very long. Okay. So there, it's pinned. And y'all can see that, right? To join the conversation, it's pinned right there. And then the phone number is right there. So I got both of them, two ways for you all. How much money do you think you need to be set for life? Could you live off of $5? Yes, Lord, I could live off of $5 million. I could definitely live. That's a good question. I'm gonna put that question up for the chat, because Dennis is one that's good with finances. And he believes that we should pool our resources and help really build our communities. And he has some excellent ideas. And so what do y'all think about that? How much money do you think you would need to be set for life? Could you make it off of $1 million? Think $1 million could last you the rest of your life? Could you make it off of $2 million? Dennis asked, how much do you need to be set for life? Could you live off of $5 million? How many people? Let me get some response from the people in the chat and people listening right now. That's a good time. That's a good question. And we'll go into something else in a few minutes. Do you all think that if you had $5 million, you would be set for life? If you handled it properly, do you think you'd be set for life? I think I would. I know I would, Dennis. I ain't gonna lie. I probably would be safe with it too. I mean, because I sell life insurance, so I take probably most of it and put it in an annuity. And with the annuities that I sell, you can draw 10% annually without a prepayment penalty. And the interest that would be coming off of that kind of money, man, please, I would live. Yeah, I definitely could live the rest of my life. How about you? Could you do it, Dennis? Could you make $5 million last you for the rest of your life? And what would be and if you did have $5 million and that was all you had, and you had to live from whatever age you are now, 40 plus, how would you set yourself up so that it would last you for the rest of your life? Let's teach the audience right now. What would you do? I have 8 kids. I probably need about 15. He said, I have 8 kids. I probably need about 15 million. I feel you on that one. I feel you. I could do it on 5 because my kids are grown and they're making their own money right now. So that's a good question. I appreciate that. That's a good question. That's a good question. So anybody else gonna answer Dennis's question? And y'all, and when you come in here, please, ma'am, please, sir, share. We spend crazy to this day. I understand. I get it. I don't. I mean, look. I mean, hey, my life has been so simple, or has been simplified in such a way that it doesn't take much for me at all. So 5 million, I probably could make it up 2 million if I did it right. But yeah. So let's jump into this whole thing, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Intellectual Stew. It's Monday night, 9:30 Eastern, and you know what that means. It's open mic night. It's open mic night. The lines are wide open. The cameras are ready. And tonight, your voice is the headline. We're diving into, I'm going to try to get into two powerful conversations: the deep wounds of church hurt and how the very place that should heal sometimes harms, and the courageous conviction of Mahmoud Abdul Rauf, the former NBA star who risked it all for what he believed. This isn't just talk, it's stew. So pull up a chair, stir the pot, and let's taste some truth together. This is the intellectual stew. So, all right, family, let's get right into it. Let's talk about church hurt, because that phrase alone stirs up a lot of, a plethora of emotion. Here's the reality. The church is supposed to be a hospital for the hurting. It's supposed to be the place where Jesus's invitation rings true. Whosoever will, let them come. But too many times people walk through the doors looking for help, instead leave with more hurt than they came in with. Think about it. People put their faith in an organization that advertises hope, but instead they're met with hypocrisy. They come expecting acceptance but receive judgment. They come looking for family, but sometimes they experience rejection. Let's be real. When people who already feel broken finally muster up the courage to walk into a church and they're mistreated, shamed, or dismissed, that wound cuts deeper than almost anything else, because it's not the failure of a person. It feels like the failure of God's people. And I did something earlier today. I don't know why I was compelled to do it, but I did this. I made a post today, and what I put in the post, Dennis, Sue Ann, what I said in the post was, I stopped experiencing church hurt when I lowered my expectations of people. Let me unpack that again. Let me say that again. I really stopped experiencing church hurt when I lowered my expectations in people. Now, when I put this post up today, a pastor friend of mine, he responded. He said, "What's church hurt?" And I remembered a couple of years ago, he and another pastor did a live video about church hurt, and they were talking about, how they, people shouldn't be hurt. They go to work and get hurt. They go everywhere else and be hurt. So why should they be affected by what's so different about the church hurting you? And then they went on to say, well, even pastors hurt. And I didn't like it then. I didn't really understand it then, but it kind of really, really made me pause today, because when he asked me that question, because it seemed like he was really ready to challenge me, and I was ready. I was here for it today. I wasn't going, I like to chat. I like to, communicate through text. So there's no problem. I'll do that. But he said, "What's church hurt?" I said, "Well, I guess it's when someone I said first, this is what I said, Dennis, this is what I said, Sue Ann, this is what I said. I said, well, first of all, I would first of all say that it's relative, because nobody's pain is universal. If I pinch myself right now and I pinch until it starts to hurt, I can feel this right now, but you don't feel it. So you can't tell me that I'm not hurting, because you're not experiencing the pain I'm experiencing. So first of all, it's relative. But not only that, but it's relative, and it's someone who was hurt by an institution or somebody in that institution that represented a place that was supposed to offer healing and hope, but instead I leave hurting. I said, so and he didn't respond, but that's where I was on that, because I don't think anybody else can tell anybody else how to feel. Because if the church is supposed to be the place where we go and lay our all on the altar, right? And what altars are things where sacrifices are. You take things to the altar, leave them there, you burn them up, you offer them unto God, whatever you do, and you leave it alone. So if the church is supposed to be that place, but then when I go in, I'm met with attitudes. And Dennis, you just said something right there, because the church itself is an institution, and it comes with an eternal insurance policy, right? This eternal insurance policy that says that, you know, upon this rock I build my church and the gates of hell shall not prevail. That means it won't ever win. Now, those weapons, it doesn't mean those weapons will not assail. It does not mean that the enemy itself would not launch an attack, right? So if that's the case, we knowing that, then we have to be super cautious how we represent what we call the church, because the sad reality, Dennis, is that many of us who are in the church or supposed to be representing the church, we're the only church that some people see, right? And so when they come to church and they go looking for something different, something that's enticing, something that's supposed to offer some type of calm or some type of solace, but then you go there and you see the same thing, or you're being mistreated, folk talking. I mean, I've witnessed it myself, and there have been many times over the years, and I've been doing this preaching thing since 1994. So that puts me 31 years in. And there have been many times, and I even wrote about it in the book, that I felt like I've been let down. And then the thing about it was, Dennis, what I found out later on, when I felt like I was the one who was let down, the one who was really in the middle of the whole thing was me. It was that personal pronoun. It was James, because my perspective had to change, right? Because the perception that I had of people and what I was expecting out of people, I mean, there was no promise ever made to me. Some things I felt like I deserved that I hadn't earned yet. Come here. Right? And then on the flip side of that, there are some things that you do suffer in, and then your perspective of suffering also makes a difference. Do you suffer through things, or do you suffer to things? And if you know you're if you know you're suffering to something, does it make it easier as you go through the suffering process? Does that make sense? I think I said something. I said something pretty. If your perspective of suffering is proper, right? And you look at suffering through the proper lens, you're not suffering through it, but you're suffering to it, because you know it's something on the other side of what you went through. Joseph started in the pit, but he ended up in the palace, and somewhere along the way he had to go through a prison. But all of those things were necessary to get him to the place where he was supposed to be, the place he was supposed to be. So sometimes, even in going through these hurt things, sometimes, and even going through what we deem painful, so sometimes the thing that the thing that I used to call painful is probably what made me powerful. The very things that you went through that caused you pain, that you consider to be painful, if you look at it with a proper perspective, it'll make you powerful. Because when you get through it, because you suffer to it, not just through it, but when you get on the other side of it, you at least got that tool in your belt, because you can say, you know what? I made it through that. And because I made it through that, I can make it through whatever else I'm supposed to go through. That's why, you know what, that's why when my perspective of people started to change, then I found a joy and a freedom that I hadn't experienced before in a long, long time. I don't know if y'all saw that video that I played when I went to brunch with a friend of mine a couple of weeks ago, or last month. And we went in and they put us on the front row, and the young lady was singing her and Daniel Caesar, the best part song, whatever I think the best part. And so the person I was with kept trying to get the lady to bring me the mic, because she was putting the people in the audience in the allowing them to sing. So she was doing that, and she put the mic in my mouth, and I don't know, I knew the song, but man, that was out of my range. So I brought it down in my line. I dropped it about an octave and started playing with it a little bit, and I started playing with it a little bit, and I started singing it. And but at the end of it, Dennis, I smiled, man. And when I smiled, when I looked at the video of it, I had to say, ooh, wow. Because I realized how far I had come. When I looked at the video, I think I might still have. I have it. I'm gonna play it for y'all right quick. Let me see if I still got that video here. Let y'all watch me. There it is. 40 seconds. Hold on, I'm gonna let y'all see this. Watch the smile at the end. Watch this. Did y'all see that smile at the end? I mean, that smile was like really, really genuine. It came from a place that has been through trials, that has been through tribulations, that has been through probably definitely not probably self-inflicted wounds. I mean, through all of those types of things, right? I mean, sadistic, whatever you want to call it, been through all of those situations, and through it all, still managed to find a smile. I ain't gonna say I maintained a smile because I didn't smile all the way through it. That would be a lie if I say I maintained a smile. But I managed to find a smile. And man, I'm telling you, it's good. I'm in the freest place of my life right now. And it comes on the heels of, once I realized, like I said, I mean, even the psalmist said it's better to trust in the Lord than to put confidence in man. And there are too many times that we put confidence in other people, Sue Ann. And while we're doing that, we end up neglecting ourselves. And when we neglect ourselves, after we've spent everything, after we've exhausted all of our humanistic ingenuity and know-how, investing in everybody else, right? And when you go and you look in the mirror and you empty, man, because you put so much stuff out, but you didn't leave anything for yourself. Can anybody else relate to that? And so when you go to a place, going to hear a word of hope, going to just find refuge, right? Because that's all Christ talked about with salvation. Salvation, man, that's called rescue, right? That would mean when someone offering salvation, they're offering a rescue. Now, that rescue is supposed to be from a sinful lifestyle and the power of sin, right? And eventually from the presence of sin. But in the process, when I go to this body of baptized believer, this koinonia, this Christian fellowship, and when I get there, I'm going there for the purpose to lay it all down and get some hope. See, this is my equation. This is my equation. You don't have to. This ain't. This is Kirklandology 101. This is Kirklandology. I like to view the church as a spiritual gas station, right? And you go to the gas station when you're, unless you're just always topping off your tank. But as your gas tank gets empty, the fuel gets low, you go to the gas tank and you get a refill. That's typically how that works, right? So likewise, if the church is the spiritual filling station, if it's the gas, when your spirit starts to run low because the pressures of the world has drained you, has pulled on you, has really, just taken a lot out of you and left you exhausted, it seems like you ought to go to the church or be able to go to the church. And when you go there, you hear a word of hope, you hear something, you are acquainted with something, and you get a spiritual refill. And when you get that spiritual refill, then you are full, ready to go out and endure the rigors of another week. Now, if you need a midweek break, some churches have midweek service, some have Bible study, all those things. But that collecting or that fellowshipping of people who are like-minded, right? All supposedly going to united around a common goal. When I go there, I'm not going for hurt. I'm going to be helped. And I'm not just saying that this help thing is one way, right? Because I'm offering help as well, because I'm bringing my experiences, I'm bringing my testimony, I'm bringing my gifts, I'm bringing my talents, I'm bringing all of these things along with me. And we're making this beautiful mix that should develop into a fellowship that has a way of impacting and changing not only communities, but eventually changing the world. But we too busy bickering and fighting and being legalistic and telling people who they are and what they shouldn't do and what they should do, and all fighting and arguing and scandals and all these things, and don't realize that we're dealing with people. That's it. We're dealing with people who live their lives. And but here's the bigger question for me. If the church is meant to welcome, why does it feel like sometimes, not all the time, why does sometimes it feel like a club with members only access? That don't happen at y'all's church. I know it probably don't happen in my church either. I'm just talking in general. I'm just saying what I've seen over the years. Well, if it's meant to be a place that welcome, if it's whosoever will, grandmama them say whosoever, if it's whosoever will, if it's really meant to welcome, why does it feel like a club with members only access? I know I'm talking too much. I get it, but this and that leads me to another story, because yesterday, I ain't gonna lie, I did it again. I got to stop doing it, but I played hooky yesterday. Well, I had to work yesterday, so I didn't go to church. I had to work on Sunday. I'm just working on Sunday thing is killing me, but I got to make a living, right? If I don't work, then I don't deserve to eat. So, hey, had to work yesterday. So, let me see. When I used to say, church, okay, yeah. When I was a kid, I used to say church was a club for the uncool. But man, I sure would have been uncool, because I had to be in church for BTU, Sunday school, and my mama would not let me go outside if I didn't do BTU. I had to do BTU and Sunday service, or Sunday service and Sunday school, but I had to do 2 of the 3. And if I didn't do them, then I couldn't go outside. So I was uncool. Look, Dennis, I was a usher. I had my little light blue pants and my white shirt. I had I was a Sunday school teacher when I was 9, 10 years old, teaching Sunday school on Youth Sunday. I was a junior deacon up there singing hymns with the deacons, praying prayers like the deacons used to pray. I was 9 years old talking about my eyesight then got dim and my footsteps and got short, because I'm praying what old men were praying. I'm singing a charge to keep. I'm doing all of that as a 9, 10-year-old man. I still like that stuff. I'm sorry. Y'all can move on if you want to, but hey, look, that kept grandmama and them, and it's kind of keeping me too. But yesterday morning, Sue Ann, I had a friend of I was laying here on the bed, and I saw, I'm just scrolling through TV because I got to be at work, and I see Chris Jackson, Mahmoud Abdul Rauf. I see that he's having you've been called a nerd your whole life, but people didn't call me one because I couldn't play basketball. Okay. He said, I've been a nerd my whole life, but people didn't call me one because I could play basketball. All right. Okay. But I'm sitting here yesterday, Dennis, and Showtime, and I see I think it's called Stand, but Mahmoud Abdul Rauf has a documentary that's on Showtime. And it tells his story from a kid as kid in Mississippi as Chris Jackson, growing up to, going through high school and then going to LSU and then going on and getting drafted, and it tells his whole story, man. And it's gut wrenching, man. It's if y'all have not seen it, I encourage you to go and see that, or to try to find that on Showtime, because when I watched it, I was in tears part of the time, man. Don't tell nobody, but I did. I ain't gonna lie, I got a little misty eyed seeing his story, because watching him, and I don't know if you've ever been there, where you grow up in a world or in a society where you feel misunderstood because you're different, and people see I think it's called Stand, if I'm not mistaken. I might have to Google that, but I think it's called Stand. But look up documentary on Chris Jackson, or a documentary on Mahmoud Abdul Rauf. But if you've never been in a society where you have felt misunderstood, then you definitely couldn't understand. But here he is as a little boy. He would tie his shoes, and he said he would sit there for 10, 15, 20 minutes tying his shoes because he just couldn't get it right. Take him 30, 40 minutes, to get prepared to go to bed, because everything had to be very just perfect, and he was twitching and things just had to be perfect. And so he ended up going to the doctor, and when they went to the doctor, they didn't know what the diagnosis, or they misdiagnosed him. And but it just had to be perfect, and then all of a sudden he started playing basketball, and he's playing and gets really good at it. But whatever he does, his drills and everything he does, his shot and everything, it has to be perfect. But he learns later on that he has Tourette's syndrome. Nobody knew. So he's different, and what people don't understand, they're afraid of it. So they try to kick it, kill it, control it, or contain it some kind of way. They want to constrain it. But he inundated himself in basketball. He worked on his dribbling and work on his shot. And man, everybody that knows who Chris Jackson is, or Mahmoud Abdul Rauf, let me respect his name. He was Steph Curry before there was a Steph Curry. I mean, he was in college. Yes, he was dropping 50 points a game in high school in Gulfport, Mississippi. He's like the #1 recruit coming out of high school. It could have went anywhere he wanted to go. Ended up going to LSU. I mean, he was that guy. When Shaq was on the documentary, Shaq was 7'2" tall, and had been the man in every society he had been to. He said, but when he went to LSU and he saw Chris Jackson, he said this is what he said. I'm quoting Shaq right now. And my memory ain't that good. So for me to say this, especially on TV shows, it's good on certain things. But he said it was like watching God play basketball. That's what Shaq said about him. He said it was like watching God play basketball. Go watch the documentary. Dennis right, nobody could do anything with him on that court, because he could go get to any spot. Even when he was in high school, he got invited to a Nike camp, and Michael Jordan was a special guest, and Michael Jordan called him on the court and told him to come at him with everything he got. He said he broke Michael Jordan's ankles and laid it up on him, because he knew he would have dropped him. He said no, he knew Michael would have blocked it, but he kept his momentum going so that his shot went up so quick that Mike couldn't get to it. But this is how much of a perfectionist he was, and how his Tourette's drove him. If he shot 100 jump shots and made 99 in a row, but his form was off on the 100th shot, even though he made it, he would shoot another 100 shots. The high school coach said that, I remember all this. The high school coach said that they would start practice off by shooting 25 free throws, and they would have to shoot free throws until they missed. They said Mahmoud Abdul Rauf, sorry, Mr. Rauf, he said he shot 298 free throws in a row. 298 free throws in a row. So that's why I want to talk about Mahmoud Abdul. I just want you all to remember who he was, because you might remember him as Chris Jackson, the sharp shooting guard from LSU and later the NBA. But he's a man who overcame Tourette's syndrome, dominated on the court, and then made a bold decision based on his convictions. He refused to stand for the national anthem. Why? Because he believed it symbolized oppression and hypocrisy. And what happened? He was condemned punished in silence. Think about the irony, and think about the irony here. This is quite ironic to me. In a country where people fought and died for freedom of speech, Abdul Rauf was crucified for exercising his. So let me tie this back. Just like people put their trust in the church and sometimes find hurt instead of healing, Abdul Rauf put his trust in the promise of freedom and found condemnation. Both stories expose a hard truth. Whether in faith communities or national communities, we often preach ideals but punish people for living them out. This young man overcomes Tourette's. He's on the court, Dennis. They talked about it in the document. You got to watch it. The players on his team don't understand what Tourette's syndrome is. So because they don't understand it, they see him coming down, he's twitching and things. They're laughing at him on the court. He's depressed. They told him that he played basketball at 165, 170, 175 in college. They told him he needed to gain weight to play in the league. Well, when he gained weight, that slowed him down. His game started to change. But when he found Islam, got his mind right, calmed himself down, when he became calm, got his body back right, got his weight back down, and then all of a sudden he's playing basketball effectively again. But then he goes on the court and he's having to deal with all these things. Let me see. The league said you have freedom of speech until you mess with our money. Absolutely. And that base that buys the tickets thinks they also own the players. But here's the question I want to ask. What are you willing to lose to take a stand? Let me play this video right quick. Hold on, let me play this. What are you willing to lose to take a stand? Here it is.
One of the greatest players in the history of the NBA was cheated out of his career.
Why did you decide to stop standing for the national anthem?
I became a Muslim and I began to read more than I've ever read before. But as I'm reading, whether it's foreign policy, domestic policy, I'm seeing America's hand in so much corruption. And then I'm looking also at the history of this nation, slavery and Jim Crow and segregation, right? I can't reconcile standing up for this symbol, right? I just can't.
The reaction in 1996 was swift and violent. Abdul Rauf was suspended by then NBA Commissioner David Stern. He also received death threats, and the dream home he was building for his family in Mississippi burned to the ground by the Ku Klux Klan.
What did you think that the reaction would be?
I wasn't surprised that was the reaction. Why? Because history has shown, in particular when young or African-American athletes, entertainers, whoever, step outside of the athletic box and speak on something else, you're condemned.
Abdul Rauf was traded the next season. His playing time diminished. And with teams unwilling to sign him, the once promising superstar was out of the NBA at the peak of his career.
Do you think that your stance ended up costing you your career?
Yep. You see it. Everything except for my children. They are my price, but I could live without everything else. Wow. That's deep. And I put this video, it's got a couple thousand views already on TikTok. I put it out this afternoon. And then all the racism and all that stuff starts to come out, talking about if he don't like it, he needs to leave. And, even some black people were coming on saying, that he made a bad decision. I saw one black dude said, well, he was only there to play basketball. He shouldn't have been doing all that other stuff. But the national anthem is one of the most political songs ever written. I mean, most people have never read the third verse, but that was really, really promoting slavery. But so it blows my mind. If you go to my TikTok page, you'll see it's. I had to get out of the conversation because I get mad when those kind of conversations start happening. And I'll be wanting to read people and all that kind of stuff, but. That's what people think about him. And he went through so much. I mean, he literally went broke. He built a dream house on 53 acres in Mississippi after all these people who hated Muslims, because this is out. You got to remember, this is after 2001, when Muslims were really being oppressed and demonized and all those things, and with them being demonized, because he changed his name to Abdul Rauf and started saying he was a Muslim and didn't want to stand for the flag. Then a lot of people started making death threats towards him. And when he built his house on 53 acres in Mississippi, the KKK came and burned his house. He built a mansion and they came and burned his house down. Literally. He went broke. He had to send his wife and 5 children went and stayed with his sister while he was sitting in the house with no heat, with blankets on, trying to stay warm. But these people, they're sitting there talking about, because, and one dude, the brother, when he talking about, you know, this money and all this, I wanted to ask him, well, just because your soul has a price doesn't mean everybody's soul has a price, right? Just because your soul has a price. I mean, God uniquely and instinctively made us all with different fingerprints, with different volitions, with different desires, right? What you eat don't make me excrete, and what I stand for you might not deem important, but this for Mr. Abdul Rauf, this was important to him, and he was willing to lose it all. And while he was willing to lose it all, somebody finally called him and asked him to come and speak to a group of people. And when he came and spoke to those people, then that speech ended up on the internet. Because you got to remember, back when they were doing their thing, the internet wasn't as prevalent as it is now, right? But when his speech got on the internet, somebody saw it, and then they invited him to start doing more speaking. God started opening doors for him. He started doing training. So now he trains NBA players, and he does all these things. God started. If you stand with integrity, and see, the thing is, what you view as suffering is actually freedom for somebody else. What you might think somebody's suffering because it doesn't fit your narrative. And I get it. I understand. You know, you've become accustomed to living your life. But baby, that's you and yours. That ain't got nothing to do with me and mine, and it doesn't have to do with them and they. What some people are suffering through, they're also suffering too. And I'm just of the sneaky suspicion that God sees our suffering, whatever you call him. God sees our suffering, and when he sees our suffering, he rewards. I ain't got time to be arguing over what you call him, and I ain't got to, you know, scripture says to live peaceably among all men. And see, that's what bothers me when you got people who really start promoting religion, especially when we start crossing culture, because religion for you might mean something totally different for me. See, Israel, no, I ain't gonna say that. Let me shut up. Some people think land and conquest and acquisition, that's religion. No, but then some people, religion is spiritual. You know, it's prayer, it's treating your neighbor right. You know what I'm saying? It's being in harmony with your fellow men, because the greatest of these things is charity. That means love. See, religion don't mean the same. So don't come to me talk. Leave me alone, Sue Ann. Quit calling my name. Religion means something different. I remember Dr. Malone when I was in college at Beulah Heights Bible College. I had a church history class, Dennis, and in that church history class, then we read about all these different ites throughout, you know, these istics and all these different, you know, people over the years, you know, just different factions and different cultures and all these. And this is a church history book, and it's talking about the church, how the church evolved, right? You know, especially yeah, I ain't gonna say that, but yeah, the church, how it evolved. And also, and this is like 2009, 2008, somewhere around that range. So whenever Facebook first came out, so most time I'd be in class, I would really just be on Facebook, because I really didn't want to hear what he was talking about in the class. I really didn't want to hear it. And I knew When it came time to take a test, he was going to give us a study guide, and all I had to do was look up the answers to the study guide, memorize the answers, and I would pass all the tests. I mean, I passed it with an easy A. Because I just didn't want to hear it. So at the end of the year, end of the class, I never will forget. It was the last day of class, and he brought everybody in. He was like, what did you all think about the class? So he's going around the room asking everybody what they thought, and everybody's giving their political answers, making him feel good, telling all their answers to the class, and I'm sitting there on my computer, this little laptop that barely worked, and internet was horrible back then, and Facebook had just come out, and I'm listening, and he wants my opinion. I'm like, you don't want to hear my opinion. I'm grown. I can tell you, I was a 35 years old when I went back to college. So I'm grown. I can talk how I want to talk. I said, you really don't want to hear my opinion. He said, why not? I said, because you don't want to hear it. He said, what is it? I said, well, since you asked, I believe that the church puts up stop signs and periods where there ought to be question marks and continuation marks. And he said, huh? I said, yeah. I said, because it seems like every time somebody gets a revelation, first thing they want to do is package it, bottle it, put a label on it, sell it, and call it religion. I said, but can I ask you a question? If God spoke, is he still speaking? And if he speaks to me, does he speak to you? And if he spoke to me, does he have to speak to you about what he said to me? And I said, because see, what I've noticed in this class is if two different organizations or two different groups or two different cultures don't agree with each other, they end up fighting. And then next they fight. I said, I ain't gonna lie. If I wasn't already a part of the church, I wouldn't even want to go to your church. And I put my head down. He said, you know what? You're right. He got all excited and all that kind of stuff. But I also looked at the author of the book. And the author didn't look like me and didn't come from the same place I came from. So if I really looked at it, let me shut up because I'm going deeper than I probably should. But anyway, because people don't understand something or because it's different, they think that it's supposed to be deficient, right? So here Mahmoud Abdul Rauf, everybody else has rejected him. His own teammates are laughing at him on the court. You got people, the doctors misdiagnosed him. He had Tourette syndrome all these years, and then all of a sudden he finds Islam and he gets the calm he needs. He starts reading books. Only problem is he just can't identify with the flag. I ain't got no problem with the military. I just got a problem with the flag. Colin Kaepernick. See, he was a predecessor for Colin Kaepernick. He was a predecessor for Steph Curry. He was a predecessor. I mean, you talk about a prophet. The very thing that the military fought for so we can have certain rights, people are punished when they decide to practice those rights. I don't get it. Both stories expose a hard truth. Whether in faith communities or national communities, we often preach ideas but punish people for living them out. Now, what do you think, Stu family? Was he wrong for sitting during the anthem? Or was he just living out his true freedom? I got a friend right now, whenever we go to the Braves game, he's not going to stand up. And he's had people look at him. And the thing is, if he don't stand, how does that affect the next person? And who died and left you God to make you feel like you need to try to police the actions of another person? Who did that? Even right now, I can look at these comments on TikTok and IG, and there are these people, and they're telling, if you don't believe like this, then leave the country. Huh? So we can't disagree. We can't have different opinions. Everybody's supposed to live. So why don't we just all be robots, right? Because that's what they're trying to move towards anyway. Why don't we just all be programmed and be robots? And we're told, because if we keep on doing what we're doing, military hit the streets and all these types of things. If we keep on doing what we're doing, they're going to try to, it's going to be. But because somebody thinks different, because somebody prays to a different God, right? But scripture says we're supposed to live peaceably. Same book, same book, same book. Supposed to live peaceably among all men. That's what, get along with everybody, even if we don't have the same ideals. Can we cordially coexist? They act like it's so serious, but I only hear, and it's the most political song ever, but they want to keep politics out. For what? If something offends me, especially in this cancel culture, right? We don't want to do anything that offends anybody else. Can't offend nobody else, but I can't be offended. Come on, bro. Really? They tried to take Kyrie. I mean, Colin Kaepernick, man, was at the pinnacle of his career. I mean, had taken San Francisco 49ers to the NFC Championship game. But then all of a sudden, because he decided to kneel, now people start trying to create their own. That's what makes me mad more than anything, Dennis. That's what upsets me more than anything, when people create their own narrative and then get mad about the narrative. Colin Kaepernick kept saying, this is not about the military. This is not about, this is about police brutality. That's all this is about. This is not about the military. I have family members when he's disrespecting the flag. He kept saying it, but they didn't want to listen to the words coming out of his mouth because they had already created their own narrative. And then when they create their own narrative, they get mad about the narrative that they create instead of just asking somebody what they're thinking. Man, come on, I'm of age. I can speak. I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't get it. And nobody, I mean, even when Obama was running for president, people President Obama kept creating their own narratives based on snippets and sound bites. And then the thing about it is, when they create the narrative, once they say it, they feel like it's that. I know one dude said something today. What he said? He said something about Muslims still have slaves, and they still do this. I said, well, I guess you said it, so it must be true. You said it, so I guess since somebody died and left you God, you said it, so it's got to be true. And I guess here's a bigger question than we're cooking tonight. What does it really mean to live by your convictions? Because whether you're talking about church hurt, you're talking about Abdul Rauf, it comes down to this: systems don't like when individuals challenge them. Anytime someone in history, especially look like me, had the power to organize, they became a threat instantly. Think about it. Anybody in history that has shown the ability and the power and the structure to organize, I can go down the list naming people, and you can too, who had the power, showed the power to organize, they became an instant threat. Look at Martin Luther King. They tapping his phones. What was he gonna do? He always promoted a nonviolent movement. What are you gonna do? Overthrow the government? How? And y'all know I'm not political, so I'm not going there. I mean, Black Panthers. I mean, they got a little radical, and they had to protect their communities. Got it. But anybody who's shown the power to organize became an instant threat. Why? Because you didn't want us to be able to think? Do you realize it was a black man's blueprint to build the White House? I mean, we were in during the what was that? During the Reformation period, we were the skilled laborers. Do you realize we were the ones that farmed the crops? And my grandfather probably had third grade education, but he taught people how to plant, taught people how to fish, taught people how to make. He was a genius. My granddaddy could look out at a forest full of trees hundreds of trees and identify that one tree that was dead. See, black man's algebra is so much different than algebra. I mean, I forgot what a squared plus b squared equals c squared. I forgot all that stuff. But I promise you, I can factor and figure, and that's algebra, man. And you can take a cat. You know, Jawanza Kunjufu said that the reason why so many African American boys dropped out of college, dropped out of high school at the age of 14 or 15 is because they weren't taught algebra at an early age. Well, but you ask one of them same boys that dropped out of high school to break down an ounce. Tell them you need a dub. Tell them you need a Vic, what they call a 7. Tell them you need any of those things. And I promise you that black man algebra will kick in. Grandmama might not have had a 6th grade education, but when she get in that kitchen and start putting, she might not have had a measuring cup, but she could eyeball a cup of sugar. She could eyeball a dash of salt. She knew just how much cornstarch to put in to stretch the hog, to stretch the corn. Come on, talk to me. Of enough hog maws to stretch the chitlins. I know y'all don't do that no more. But that was black man algebra, right? Common sense algebra. But the only thing about that, we didn't write the textbook, so we couldn't put it in the book. And so because we didn't write the textbook and because we couldn't put it in the book, then we didn't set the grading scale. Right? And if they set the grading scale, oh my God. If they set the grading scale, yeah. But let me write the book. Let me say how fast you can run it. And if you don't run it this fast and you lose, you failed. Or if you can't shoot this many shots and you lose and you can't make a layup, and that's the grading scale. Let me put that up. And if you fail if you can't do it. Because if you write the textbook, you got the power to write the textbooks. Then you got the power to say who fails and who doesn't fail. Y'all got the nerve to tell me black folk can be racist, man. Y'all better mix me on that. Racism is power plus privilege. We might have a little privilege, but where the power at? Some of us don't even know what country. I don't know how I got on this tangent. Here's the big, because in the church, challenging traditions can get you labeled rebellious. In the nation, challenging patriotism can get you labeled as un-American. But in both cases, isn't conviction exactly what faith and freedom require? Church hurt says, come as you are. But then judges judges how you look when you arrive. The anthem says land of the free, but then punishes the free for not standing in line. So let's open up. How do we, as people of faith, as Americans, as thinkers, balance conviction with community? Where's the line between standing out and being pushed out? Y'all talk to me for a minute. Where's that line? How do we distinguish the line? If this is truly the land of the free, why are we afraid to stand up? And the reason why we know is because so many people are punished for exercising the freedom that we're supposed to have. And does that make you, and if that's the case, does that make you think twice? Does that put you on pause when it comes to standing up for something that you know to be right? Or standing against something when you know that it's wrong? I asked a question a couple of weeks ago. I said, if you saw a friend and you knew that friend was abusing their child, would you say something? Do you know some people had the nerve to say that that's not their business? They would stay out of it. Yeah. Some people said they would stay out of it. It's none of their business. I get it. That's the society we live in right now. Got a whole Dennis, but you got integrity. You a stand. and you'll stand up. But so many people have that learn. So many people echo those 3 words, not my problem. And I say it in some instances. But when it comes to moral things, especially for the collective, for the weak, for the least of the, what's up, Shedrick? Especially for the least of these. I mean, who's gonna stand up? And that's even what Jesus said. When I was hungry, did you feed me? When I was naked, did you clothe? When I was out, when I needed shelter. But we're so meistic in our values, and we practice perpendicularitis. That's what J. Vernon McGee calls it. We practice. It's all about me, myself, and I. You know, I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, and my friend's a little spoiled. Ain't no lie, a little spoiled. And I almost wanted to tell him, when you're spoiled, you don't have to be selfish. Y'all will catch that later on tonight when you go to bed, about 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. You'll wake up on that one. If you're already spoiled, Sue Ann, ain't no use in being selfish. You don't even have to ask when you're spoiled. But what if they are being mentally abused? I think most people would stay out of that. Yeah. Most people would. Would you? I wouldn't. I mean, I get involved with strangers. When I see people out in public doing things, I try to find a way to get into the conversation, and I'll sneak a quick parable in there or something, and I'll get, and then I'll try to get them to see I try to take that parable and try to get them to see themselves in that situation, because I just and I think some people learn better like that, and God has gifted me to be able to use analogies to break down certain things so people can understand them in another way without being offended. Now, there was a time, Sue Ann, you know me quite well, I just came down Main Street, and whoever got ran over when I came down Main Street just got ran over. But now I care enough to make sure you get it. Let me see what Dennis says. Dennis said, I did not do enough when it happened in my family, but I told the kid he could stay with me. Yeah. That's good. That's good. And you know what, Dennis? We learn from our mistakes. When you can look in the rearview mirror and look at it with a different lens and say, you know what? If I'm ever put in that position again, I'm gonna handle it differently. When you get to that place in life, that's a powerful place to be. And I'm closing when I'm going to cut it, because y'all know I'm tired. I worked all day today. But I'm gonna say this. Hope, our hopes don't come with expiration dates, right? Just because we get a hope and we have not achieved that hope yet, it doesn't expire. What hope often does, I've learned, Dennis and Sue Ann, is hope often represents itself when we are mature enough to receive what hope offered the first time. Does that make sense? See, our hope, I have a dream about certain things, and some of the dreams that I've had, I've not realized yet. I've not experienced those dreams. I've not crossed the threshold yet. But just because it hasn't happened doesn't mean that it won't happen, right? It just means that it hadn't happened yet. So when I say that our hopes don't come with expiration dates, what I mean is, just because it hadn't happened doesn't mean that it's not going to happen. So, but what happens in the process and what happens in the meantime, and let me say this part too. Sometimes in the I used to ask the question, what do you do in the meantime when times are mean? Sometimes the meantime can be very mean, but even in those moments, the meantime has a way of maturing us. Does that make sense? What happens in the meantime when the times are mean? Times have a way, the mean times have a way of maturing us, so that the hope that we thought was on the verge of expiring, it represents itself to us, so that when we're more mature, we're ready to receive what hope is offering. It's some stuff I forfeited in the past because I wasn't mature enough to receive it. But now that I'm in this place and I'm in the happiest place of my life, now things come easier. Now the purse, as Haggai used to call it, that had a hole in it, it's stopped up now. Now I'm able to retain some of the stuff that, because when you're struggling and when you're immature, you might receive blessing after blessing after blessing, but you don't have the ability to retain the blessing that's coming. So Haggai said it's like a purse and it has holes in it. So everything's coming in, but it's also coming through. But as you grow older, as you mature, as you get into a different place in life, when those same things are presented again, you're able to retain it. Now you got something, Suan Dawood. Now you got something different, Dennis Pittman. You got something different. Now you got substance. And when you get substance has a way of stopping up the holes. Thank you, Holy Ghost. Substance has a way of stopping up the holes. So don't give up because you have not received what you thought you deserved. Because you actually do deserve it. You just haven't done enough suffering to, instead of suffering through. Perspective. So make it through this. You might have experienced the church hurt. You might have been persecuted for standing on your convictions. That's okay. I'd rather stand on my conviction and struggle than compromise and feel like I'm thriving but not be able to sleep at night because I got to look at the man in the mirror. I could have sold out a long time ago. I refuse. And that's why I made the post today, Kim Robinson. That's why I made the post that said I stopped experiencing church hurt when my expectations in people, when I lowered my expectations in people. You know why? Because there's not a friend like the Lord. I'm good. What I call him. Now, what you call him, that's on you. Abdul Rauf, he found Islam. And that helped him through the darkest period of his life. That helped him through the darkest period of his life. And who am I as another man to knock somebody for what they went through and what helped them get to the place of peace in their life? I refuse. And that doesn't change. And his belief does not change my belief. And we can cordially coexist. And who knows, at the end of it all, we might end up at the same place. They might cancel me for this one. I don't know, whatever. But family, tonight, I'm tired. We've stewed on two heavy but connected truths: church hurt and conviction. Both remind us that what we say and what we do must match. Because if we preach freedom but punish people for using it, that's hypocrisy. If we preach love but treat people with contempt, that's betrayal. And here's what I leave you with. And Suan, if you got a question, go ahead and type it or text me, whatever you're going to. But I ain't talking about the show after the show. But here's what I leave you with. Healing comes when we stop pretending and start practicing. Freedom comes when we honor conviction, even when it makes us feel uncomfortable. That kind of hit me kind of hard. Healing comes when we stop pretending and start practicing. Freedom comes when we honor conviction, even when it makes us feel uncomfortable. Now, phone lines are still open just for a couple more minutes. So don't just listen. Join the stew. Call in, hit the video, drop your voice in the pot, whatever. And as always, thank you for being part of the conversation. It's not just a show, it's a community. It's the Stew Crew. And this is the Intellectual Stew. Will leave the phone lines open, the video line open. And if anybody wants to discuss anything or anything that's on your mind, it doesn't even have to be about the topics that we have discussed tonight. We talked about, for those that are just listening, we talked about church hurt earlier, but then we talked about the sacrifice that Mahmoud Abdul Rauf made and what it cost him. And that's why we use that closing line. Stop practicing. Stop punishing and start practicing. Because freedom comes when we honor conviction, even when it makes us feel uncomfortable. Well, you know what? If somebody's calling, well, I would know because it would call my phone, but I didn't have the phone thing up. But let me put it up just in case. I be forgetting sometimes, y'all. I'm sorry. But the phone line is up now. So if anybody did I miss any calls? No, I didn't miss any calls. Cool. Nope, I didn't miss any calls. Yep, didn't miss any calls. So if our hearts and minds are clear, it's been a long day. And for whatever reason, last night I went to bed early. And about 3:30, my eyes popped wide open. And I've been up most of the day since then. So I am somewhat tired. But if our hearts and minds are clear and no one else has anything else to say, I'm going to leave you, as I always do, by saying the world is changing. My question for you is, why do you remain the same? I'll catch y'all next week. Good night.
Intellectual Stew. Intellectual Stew with James Kirkland.
Powerful and provocative. Prophetic and practical.
Have you ever found yourself?
Are you dating for that person?
Informative and
I feel
inspirational.
every bit of it. Like, I'm not trying to waste my
How you gonna do better if you don't know what better looks like? I do.
Intellectual Stew.
Come on, let's talk about it with me, the Mind Messiah.
Intellectual